right to still use explicit violence in your writings?
It's what I do, is one answer. I write horror fiction. There is a kind of curiosity that we have as human beings about our life processes. One of our last life processes is death. It's a legitimate subject for curiosity. We shouldn't be ashamed that the macabre or the morbid exercises some fascination upon us. I tell it like it is. If it's there in my mind's eye, I put it on the page. And that seems to me to be a legitimate way to write.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on the Written in Red podcast. That is the horror reader and writers podcast. We're here to prop up indie talent in the extreme horror and splatterpunk genre, and also provide you with whatever writing advice that we can. So you'll see that in future episodes, but this being our episode 3 of our 4-part initial launch is to let you guys know a little bit about us and get to understand the people that are going to be hosting the show. In the first episode, I did a book that meant a lot to me. So we're going to be doing a book that inspired us, and then a short interview with each of us to begin this podcast. And those hosting the podcast is none other than myself, Aron Beauregard, Splatterpunk Award-nominated author of the book The Slob, also other such works as Scary Bastard, Yellow, and my newest book, Wedding Day Massacre, which is available now on Amazon. And we also have, as a co-host, Carver Pike.
What's going on, guys? I'm Carver Pike, also a Splatterpunk Award-nominated author for the book Scalp and Best Novel. That's my parasitic head. I'm sorry, for Slaughterbox, not Scalp. Slaughterbox is the nominated book. Scalp, I wanted it to be nominated. The Scalp is my parasitic head lice book. Sorry, I had my head itching on my mind. Written the Diablo Snuff book and a handful of other books. Glad to be here.
Excellent. And then we also got Daniel J Volpe.
Hey everyone, Daniel Volpe here, author of Billy Silver and Awakened in Blood.
And then, of course, Roland Bursey Jr.
Hello, everybody. Roland Bursey Jr., author of Payback is a Witch, Unbortion, and Pre-Thanksgiving Stress Disorder.
And together we have come to provide you guys with some interesting horror shit, indie horror. We're going to bring it. And I would say, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Written in Red podcast on iTunes and Spotify. We will be going out to other channels too, so if you use like a Stitcher or a Google Play, that is to come in the upcoming weeks, and there will be announcements around that. Also, our YouTube channel, if you want to see our pretty faces as we speak to each other and look gingerly into each other's eyes with an angelic but devilish stare. You could do that on YouTube at the Written in Red channel. So be sure to check that out. And today we are going to be talking to none other than Daniel J Volpe about the book that inspired him. And then to conclude the podcast, the team will be interviewing me on just sort of how I got started and all that fun stuff. But I say we get right into it. Daniel, what do you got for us, brother?
So I don't think you can talk about horror in any sense without mentioning the man himself, and that is Stephen King. So my book is probably one of the OG versions of Night Shift. And you can see my book is in some haggard-ass shape. It's held together by tape.
Scotch tape holding it together.
It is.
Just tape and cum stains? Is that all that's holding it together?
Mostly cum stains, but there's some tape. This is a great collection of stuff. Can't get over this now. A great collection of stories. For anybody that hasn't read it, I highly recommend it. Some people say Stephen King is better as a short story author than a long fiction author. And if you've read any of his short stories, you can definitely see the validity in that statement. This book, this actual copy here, was probably one of the first adult horror novels that I actually, or adult books that I read. Like you guys, I grew up reading Goosebumps and Fear Street and the Scary Story books, but this book was actually a neighbor of mine. She was a year or two older, and I think it was her dad's or something, and she had it outside one day, and I started reading it, and I was captivated by it, and just the way Stephen King describes everything, and just some of his short stories. And this book was the first time that I was actually scared by something that I read, and that story, particularly, that really stood out to me, that scared the ever living shit out of me, was none other than the Boogeyman. If you haven't read this story, I highly recommend it. I don't want to really talk much about it, besides the fact that it's terrifying, because if you do go too much into it, it'll give it away the ending. This collection also has some great iconic stories in here. Jerusalem's Lot, somewhat of a prequel to the novel Salem's Lot. I Am the Doorway, another classic. The Mangler, which I believe was made into a movie about like a killing, like a washing machine, like a laundry service. What was it? What'd you say, Roland?
I think it was like a printing press or something like that.
Yeah, it was some kind of industrial machine.
It's huge, yeah.
The movie's quite comical, actually.
That's good.
I'm sure it is.
Isn't it?
Wasn't Robert Englund in it?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes They Come Back, another classic, and of course, probably the most well-known story out of this collection is Children of the Corn, which most people thought it was a novel. It's actually only a 29-page story. So that's a classic movie, classic story.
Doesn't that have Trucks in it too? Is Trucks in that one?
This house, yup, Trucks is in it.
Oh,
yup, that's Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
Yup.
And what was the
Gray
one about
Matter.
Wasn't there one I think
Graveyard Shift, I think.
Graveyard Shift, yeah, I like that. That was a good movie.
So you have that, The Lawnmower Man, Quitters Inc., The Man Who Loved Flowers, One for the Road, The Woman in the Room. This is just a solid collection of stories. Of course, like I said, I don't think any of us would be where we are right now without the contributions of Stephen King, who's like 70-something and still cranking out books almost yearly.
I thought it was interesting that he did a short story one recently, Daniel, right? The If It Bleeds, which I was kind of like, whoa, he went back to short stories, which is kind of cool.
So I'm actually almost about to finish that. It's not short stories, it's more novellas. So there's 4 novellas, and the title story, If It Bleeds, is actually novel length. Oh, okay. That story is like 250-something pages long. But as you know, Stephen King, and he's kind of exploring more with the, I'm gonna say, speculative fiction, but not so much in the horror genre now. The stories that are in this aren't really, they're definitely not night shift stories. They're more of general fiction, kind of creepy, a little eerie, but there's not any kind of hardcore violence. They are still very good because it's Stephen King, and we've all seen the Family Guy episode with the fucking lamp monster. You know, it's Stephen King. Like, he can pretty much write whatever, and it's probably going to be good.
It's crazy when you think of how many movies came out of that. Like that like we were talking about Books of Blood, and how many came out of that. And dude, that one though, just Children of the Corn has like fucking 7 by itself. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Children of the Corn, and he has so many great collections out. Skeleton Crew. I mean, Skeleton Crew is another one that I read early on. I think that has like The Raft in it. I can't think of some of the other ones. That has the one with the monkey with the symbols. I don't remember what the fuck the story is, but
Shining.
The monkey shines.
Or monkey. Yeah, that's a great collection also. And then he has Nightmares and Dreamscapes, another great collection. But for me, Night Shift was probably that first book that really got to me with the actual horror, and really it was the Boogeyman. And like I said, if you only read one story out of that collection, read that one.
How old were you when you read it?
I said I was a pretty avid reader, so I was probably in my very, very early teens, if not 11, 12, somewhere around there. So I should probably reread it because that was 20-something years ago. But it's this book, Misery, and The Dark Half were probably the three Stephen King books that I had started off with. So that definitely kind of started my career in.
I definitely like your cover better. I've got the one that has like the chick with the like her hands tied in a ribbon. It looks like it's like an erotica novel or something like that.
Yeah, do the pose.
Yeah.
Pose for us.
I don't know what.
Do it again.
Yeah. Her hands.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was just looking at my
Alright.
book. I was like, I don't have that cover, man. I've got like this. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I'm gonna knock down the pop figure. I'm sure, or maybe not. Can you see the? It's got like. I didn't even
Oh my
realize what
God.
it was at first.
Oh, wow.
When I first saw the cover, I had to actually stop and look at it a couple times. I'm like, is that a girl hanging from like a ribbon?
Man,
Yeah,
can you put that shit away? Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like a 1979 printing.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
So Roland was 35 when this book came out.
I was actually trying to think. I was 9. I was a baby.
Roland's found the fountain of youth.
Yeah. He's a fucking vampire. He's a little stat over here.
Telling you.
Hey, that's the vampire to compare to. Like when you think of Stephen King, I automatically think of Dean Koontz next to it. Like, have you read any Dean Koontz?
Yeah, I mean, a few here and there, but that's like, that's like drinking Coke and then going to drink like fucking RC. I'm sorry for everybody that thinks RC is better than Coke, but if you do, you're wrong. But I have some Dean Koontz and, what do you have? Intensity.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm reading Intensity now, and that's pretty intense.
Really?
Yeah, I should hope so. Dragon Tears, I think it's Dragon Tears was another pretty good one. Mask, those were good. That was a good one, but for the most part, if it came down to it between Stephen King and Dean Koontz, it's either Stephen King or you're wrong. So,
No.
send all your hate mail to Written and Read Podcast at gmail.com for everybody that loves the Dean Koontz fans and the Stephen King haters. But this is our show, and I'll say whatever the hell I want.
Yo, he's going off.
I see that.
I'm all
Right?
fired up.
Fuck this. Fuck you. Fuck everything.
I've
I'm
never
out.
used profanity like that.
That's cool though. It's cool that that King, because that's probably like, I don't think I started reading anything that was that educated, I guess, you know what I mean? Like the vocabulary is kind of, it's a different style of writing, of course. So I think it's cool to know that at that age you were kind of jumped ahead into some of that more adult fiction. I think Carver said something similar. And while I did read American Psycho, like I talked about on mine in high school, it was the later years though. Like you guys seem like you started off real early, while I was still reading Goosebumps and Shivers, I guess. But...
Yeah. Yeah, I liked all that stuff, and I think it was again, I thought I talked to you guys before about it. I kind of attribute a lot of that to my dad because, when he would work, sometimes he'd bring a book with him and he'd work midnights, and when he'd come home, he'd put it on the kitchen table, and a lot of times it was Stephen King. And I kind of was like, oh, what's this? And, your father's obviously your hero for most people. And I'm kind of like, man, what is this? I want to read it. And then when I saw this book that my friend had, I just kind of gravitated towards it, and that was it. And now I have a entire bookshelf dedicated to just Stephen King.
See, I'm curious, is there a certain book cover that like jumps out in your memory from being a kid? Because my mom used to collect, she used to be into like Dean Koontz and John Saul and Stephen King and stuff, but the one cover that really sticks out in my mind from her collection was The Flowers in the Attic, like the inside cover.
V.C. Andrews.
Well, you know how all her old covers, they would be like the front cover and then like a little window kind of.
I love
and then
that.
you open
Yeah.
it, it's like that grandmother or whatever, ghost and shit with the kids.
Oh,
It scared
yeah.
the shit out of me when I was a kid when I saw that. Is there any cover that you remember thinking back that just sticks out to you?
The one, it's not really scary or anything like that, but it always sticks in my head is the cover from The Dark Half. Obviously another Stephen King, and it's the two sparrows, and their heads are next to each other, and it looks like a face, but it's two separate heads of these sparrows. And
Like purple, right, or green?
it's
think
red. It's red.
Okay, I'm full of shit.
It's a red. Yeah, it's red and black. But for some reason, that was one of my earlier Stephen King books that I had read also, and I read it later on as an adult. I should actually really reread Night Shift. I don't know if I could reread this copy because it looks like it's about to fucking fall apart. But maybe I'll get a fancy one. Maybe I'll get one with the bondage lady on it, like Carver has, and
Go ahead.
go from there. But yeah, that's my pick. Night Shift by Stephen King, great collection. If you haven't read it, get yourself a copy. Maybe one with the hand and the eyeballs instead of the bondage lady, but whatever piques your interest.
I'm just curious if there's a story in the book that fits with. Like, where does the bondage lady come from? There must be a story in there that goes along with, because...
Yeah, I don't know. Because I think the hand with the eyeballs is the I Am the Doorway. I'm pretty sure that's from I Am the Doorway. But I'm not 100%. Like I said, it's been a long time since I read it, but that book really just stood out to me.
And more importantly, this is the second week in a row that, or second episode in a row that Carver's worked incest into the storyline somehow.
Oh.
Yeah,
So
he is in
he
West
had to go
Virginia.
up into the attic this week,
Yeah. He is in West Virginia, so you know what they say. But
Oh, man. Yeah. Got it.
No, but have you watched did you guys ever watch the Flowers in the Attic movie?
The old one with Kirsty
Yeah.
Swanson. I used to have the biggest crush on Kirsty Swanson, man, back when she was Buffy. But yeah, that one, yeah.
I watched it with my wife for the first time, like maybe a couple years ago, I think. It was fucking... I thought it was pretty good, though. I liked it. I've never actually read the book. Did you read the book, though?
No, I actually just found it recently. Like I walked into a Goodwill and there was like the whole collection, so I may give it a try.
I mean,
yeah,
dude,
I don't know.
she's everywhere. Like, you go into any fucking store, it's like 30 of her books, boom, automatic.
Yeah.
So,
I remember the music from that old movie though, and I don't know if I have it on my Spotify, like my horror writing playlist, but it had a good theme song to it. It was a creepy theme song. I just can't remember it now, at the top of my head, but yeah.
when you figure it out, can you sing it for us?
No.
All right.
Maybe.
okay, that's more acceptable.
Depends on how many drinks I've had.
Yeah.
Drinking water tonight, so.
Stop drinking water.
I just want to believe that big bottle you keep drinking from is vodka. I don't know.
It's water, man.
I know. I just don't want to believe that though. That's my own beliefs. Need to
get my Southern Comfort off the counter.
There you go.
All right. Well, cool, Daniel. Appreciate you bringing that book to the table. It looks like a real ancient copy too, which is cool. It's good to see the visual of it.
Yeah.
And I guess so. At this point, we're going to transition into the interview portion where these three gentlemen are going to be interviewing yours truly, Aron Beauregard. So, guys, whatever questions, just fire away.
All right. I want to start off pretty much like we've done with the other two interviews. Aron, like take us back, take us to young Aron when you weren't gray and disheveled, and when you were a young man.
I was always gray, just not always visually gray. But
I'll be right back. Somebody's like drumming or something in the background. I need to cut that shit out. So just
do it live.
There's an emergency at the Pike household, but I'll continue. So yeah, to begin, I mean, I started real young actually. I wrote this story, and I have this in my author bio, if anyone has read my Amazon author bio, but there was a story I wrote called Zombie Child, and it was about this this dude that, he wants the girl in high school. This is 6th grade, mind you. Wants this girl in high school, but the cool guy's with the girl, and so he asks his friend to show up in the woods and scare his the guy that he's jealous of, because he's with the girl. And so they go in the woods, and they both have bats, and the kid thinks, his friend thinks they're just gonna scare him, and they beat the shit out of him. Like they like knock the meat off his face with the bats, and it's very graphic. And then the friend is sitting there like, what the fuck, dude? I thought we were just gonna scare him. And then he's like, well, fuck you too. And then he murders his friend, beats him to death with the bat. And me and this other kid, we just kept going back and forth with it, like writing like a couple paragraphs each, and then it would just get worse. And then like, so those kids are dead, and the girl's in distress, and like he's at a party with this girl, and he decides to make his move now. And then she's like, Jacob's dead, and all you can think about is sex, or and then he's like, fuck you, bitch, and he throws her down the stairs, and she dies. She breaks her neck on the stairs, and then he starts getting fucking drunk, kind of like what Daniel's doing, and then he shows up at the funeral of the girl. And he's wasted, and he's like, oh, I think the corpse winked at me, man. You know, like the corpse done winked at me in this shit. Long story short, he rapes the corpse, and then a zombie child is spawned from the corpse and hunts him down. So it comes out of the graveyard and shit. And then my mom and my father like found this story in my pants. Like it was just scribbled down on like 6 pages in my jeans.
Did you put a fucking trigger warning on it?
Dude, I need a trigger warning.
This is pre-trigger warnings, baby.
Necrophilia rape.
But anyway, they're like, wow, you're really a fucked up person, Aaron, you know? Kind of like that. And I'm like, okay, that's true. And they weren't happy about it, to say the least. But they respected it, I guess. And
Like,
this
wish we just found some porn under his mattress like normal kids.
Yeah, seriously.
This was like early in 6th grade. And then, but the crazy part is I would go on to write this story called House of Illusions later in the year, which won the award in the school, which I came from Central Falls High School. If you don't know, it's not a good rap. It don't take much to win an award there, but I did win it nonetheless. And then from there, like I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I do like writing, but I fell out of it for some reason. And from time to time, I would write like short stories. And then I was watching this movie with a friend of mine, and I saw part of the story play out from that zombie child story that I wrote years ago. And I had wrote it before the movie came out, and I was like, oh shit, like this is like the story I wrote when I was a kid. It wasn't exactly the same, you know what I mean? But it was about raping the corpse and the baby coming out of the graveyard. I wish I could.
What was that? I bet I know what it is. Hold on.
I wish I could remember the name of it. It was almost like an anthology with multiple movies in it or something.
Of course, Roland knows.
Roland's out. He's out.
I know that one.
Can you elevate it a little more?
The Offspring. Because he raped a girl and she wound up having a baby, and the baby went after him. Was that it?
Yo, you and me got so much in common, Roland.
Dude, this is a VHS too. You see that, right? VHS. I still have my.
Can you show me the back of it? Can you show me the back of it real quick?
Oh yeah.
I see the box is empty, so you're like watching
That's
it
it,
now.
dude. You have it.
Yes, I knew it.
He stole it from Blockbuster.
My favorite movies to watch.
Yeah.
It's so good.
But that looks older than when I wrote the story. What year was it? Because maybe I'm wrong. But I hadn't seen the movie until later in life. And then I was like, what year was it?
Shit, I can't find it. I don't know.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
But either way, so I hadn't seen the movie, and then when you see like a vision of yours on the screen, you're like, holy shit, like, okay, this person has a similar idea to me. Like, why the fuck can't I do this?
Yeah.
So, but then I got into like music, and I was doing music for like different music stuff, and writing lyrics for nearly like a fucking decade, maybe more. Then, the guys in the band like impregnated girls, or they're just fucking losers, alcoholic, drug addict, pieces of shit, Dayron, bass, Dre, all you guys. But basically after that, I was like, okay, there's no hope for the music thing anymore. I'm gonna go back to writing, and I wrote Die Tommy, which was a novella that I released. And my wife looked up. I had no clue, like you, Roland. None of us had any clue of the publishing process. But she got me a book from Digipod, like a sample book, and she was like, yo, you could print your own shit, like, through this company. And I didn't even know about Amazon at the time. So my whole first run of books, I printed Try the New Candy, which was a story collection of mine first. That was all, I just paid to have it done. And then I realized that Amazon was a thing, but that's how kind of amped up I was. Like I had started doing the Evil Examine podcast, and I wanted to do something that was like beyond belief, fact or fiction. I don't know if you guys remember that show.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Wasn't the guy from Star Trek on that?
Yeah, I think so, dude. And he was like,
Yeah.
do you believe this tale could be real, bitch? He was saying shit like that.
Is it Rick James?
I swear I was about to say, oh, I was reading Rainbow. I was thinking LeVar Burton.
Oh my God.
But
Oh, man.
so I was like, man, I want to do something like that with like horror stories and shit.
I think you killed Carver. Oh, there he is.
I just hit my knee on the desk.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting too excited, guys. We really need to fucking settle down.
Calm
Seriously.
down. Stop moving.
I don't want any hospital bills out of this show, goddammit.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was like, yo, I seen him doing the fucking Beyond Belief shit, and I'm like, man, I want to do something like that. And I was podcasting, so I was like, man, I'll write these stories and let the listeners decide if they think they're real or not. Like, they can, like, vote online. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
So I did 5 stories like that. 4 of them ended up being included in Try the New Candy, which was the first thing I released. And I wrote 6 more and made it a 10 story book. And since there, man, I've been fucking... It was like I said this on the Bazong podcast, and I truly believe it. It's like a switch flipped when I wrote that book. And after that, it was fucking game over, dude. I was there's no looking back. And it's like I had that first one in my hands, and I'm like, I'm never going to stop releasing books now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that the best feeling in the world when you get your first book that you wrote in your hand?
It's awesome, dude.
Oh yeah. That first proof comes in, and you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I wrote this. And it's just like you said, when you get the inspiration for a couple of them and you just start going and going and going, it's amazing. It's such a great feeling, and it's awesome that you have that.
And that's what we want the aspiring writers to know on this podcast. If you guys are looking for that inspiration, you're looking for that guidance, keep listening. This is just the introductory period. We're going to get there, and we're going to really dive deep into getting you guys to achieve that goal alongside us. But yeah, so that's the answer to that question, Daniel.
One thing I just want to touch on with that is I don't like the fact that you besmirch Daddy Bass, because he's one of my favorite guests on Evil Examined. So other than that, everything else was spot on, except for that sacrilegious statement you made about Daddy Bass.
You have to understand there's a lot of sexual tension between me and that man.
I can hear on the show.
There's a lot of ferocity.
I can feel it.
All right.
I can feel it over there. I hear lip smacking when you guys are on together.
Oh, shit.
He's just a beautiful Puerto Rican man. What can I say? There's nothing else to say.
I could tell.
I looked it up. And, The Offspring was 1987.
Okay, so well before I wrote, not well before, but a good amount before I wrote the story. But either way, if you didn't fucking know that it was a movie, and you wrote something and you saw it, and then you're just like, whoa, this is wild, That's so cool that you had that, dude, because the last couple podcasts I've talked about it, and I don't know the name of the movie, so it's awesome to know it now.
Oh, nice. So, Aaron, what are you working on now? Like, what's in the future for you?
I got a few projects going. I got In the Hands of the Heathens will be my next release, which is like going to be like about the Ai, which is an endangered species, mainly out of Madagascar, and there's a lot of like folklore around this creature. It's pretty cute, actually, if you see it.
I was gonna say it's actually freaking cute, and you made it look horrifying.
Yeah.
Great job.
But if you see it on like camera at night, crawling on trees with its long ass fingers, like pulling grubs out, it's very creepy.
Yeah.
And then I was like researching into it, and like I was like, man, there's all this weird like folklore associated with it. Like if it points its finger at you, because they have an elongated finger,
Yeah.
You know, supposedly you're cursed for death and all this shit. And so I'm like, man, this is fucking all the makings for a horror story. So I got these 4 girls that are doing their final thesis, and they go to this remote area of Madagascar with this guide, and one of them doesn't make it back. And you know, they've encountered this creature and learned about this folklore around the glowing campfires. And it's a fun book, I think. And it's great because it's like half the book is Madagascar, the other half is in the United States, and it's like you got to figure out for the reader, you're deciding what do you think is going on here. And I just had a fucking hell of a time researching Madagascar and some of the tribes over there and stuff, and I learned so much, and it was just a fucking blast. That's what I love about writing shit like this. It's like stepping outside of the U.S. and like diving into something. It's just fun, man.
So I know you said that like most of the horror that you like to write is human-based horror. This is not. So what made you want to step over into that uncharted territory?
Or is it? Or is it?
Yeah, is it? Yeah.
That's for you to decide. But so that's not to say that I don't like that type of horror. I do love it. And actually, in another project that I'm working on, Nightmare Nirvana, which is sort of my homage to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I work with this phenomenal artist, Stefan Lemore, in Serbia. He has 65 gorgeous illustrations. I've released a couple via social media so far, if you guys want to check them out. But it is a big range in there. There's everything in there, dude. From creepy alien shit to fucking axe murder, campfire stories.
Nice.
Picture like a splatterpunk version of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, so to speak. And me and Daniel talked about this because he expressed wanting to do something similar too. And it's not, I'm not the first one to do it. There's been other people, I feel like, that have done similar things, but I've invested over $3,500 in this book.
Wow.
And it has cover art by Zach Dunn, who's a horror oil painter. Just an incredible artist. It is going to be a piece of art, when you get this book. This is going to be something like none of my other books have been. It is my thank you to all those that raised me in horror. And I'm very excited about that one.
So if I could just piggyback off that real quick, Roland. Aaron, with that collection, did you write stories based on pictures, or did you have pictures or images drawn based on your stories, or a little bit of both?
I would say 90% of those stories, the pictures were made after I wrote them. But then I started getting consumed, like releasing other books. And I had a couple stories that I needed to wrap up that collection. And I was like, okay, I know kind of where these stories are going, but they're not written. So I gave him pictures for like 2 or 3 of the stories, to do in advance before I had written them. So a little bit of both, but I didn't want, because he take a long time to do these illustrations. We worked almost a year and a half on this. All the time, nonstop back and forth communication. And it's like, I can't slow him down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I slow him down, it's going to fuck up everything. And I like to keep cranking it out. You know what I mean? So with a couple of stories, I had to approach them that way, but it was not detrimental to the project in any way. In fact, it created some different ideas, I think, that might not have been there initially. So I was stoked about it, honestly. But
do you have an anticipated release date for that?
I'm hoping in the summer, early summer. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the main ones. Those 2, and then I've also got this book, Beyond Reform, which is my first collaboration with John Athan, who's he's got over 50 books released. He's the Matt Shaw of the United States, essentially. Yeah. Great guy. And this is something I'm definitely going to talk about on the podcast. Okay, is approaching your peers. Like once you feel like you're at a point where you're ready to collaborate, What is the appropriate way to approach your peer? How do you pitch a project, right? What do you need to have in order? And so John Nathan and Jasper Bark and actually Carver Pike were the three people that I pitched the project to initially. Carver was overwhelmed at the time with, he has multiple pen names, as you know, so he was not able to do it. But the other two were able to do it. And Carver, is it fair to say that it wasn't my pitch that turned you off? It was just the workload?
Oh, not at all. Yeah, exactly. No, definitely not. And that's what I told you, that I actually wanted to work with you and stuff too. So just like you said, I was just with the different pen names, man, just overworked, just overwhelmed for a little bit. So I actually came back to you, remember? It was like,
Yeah.
hey, did you start it yet? And you were like, yep, sorry, we're going full speed ahead. So definitely, yeah.
And it's
I've
like,
talked to John Ethan and Matt Shaw, and yeah, they're great guys, man.
Yeah.
It's really cool to. I'm doing more and more of that now, reaching out to people and stuff like that in the horror world, and so many great people
it's
in
important.
the horror.
It's important, dude, and it's like it's all at your fingertips. But what we're gonna do here on the Written in Red podcast is we're gonna give you advice and successful things that we've done to reach out to others, so that you know what's appropriate on an approach. You know, because there's ways that you could do it that are completely wrong, which I'm gonna get into a way that I did it that was completely wrong in upcoming weeks. I want to talk about that, and then I want to talk about what I learned and how we did it right, you know? So there's a lot that I think will be helpful to people. And you'd be surprised how many awesome people that are fucking established are willing to do stuff with you if you have the right approach and if you've built a name for yourself, you know, like, and that all comes in Written in Red. So
Yeah,
Nice.
definitely. I was just curious. I wanted to ask you, Aaron, because you've asked. I think you just asked Roland this in the last episode, and I think you even asked Daniel this. But like, what do you do when you're not writing? What do you like to do? What are your hobbies? What's it like to be Aron Beauregard when you're not putting pen to paper?
most of the time I just have a fucking gun in my mouth and I'm thinking about it. That's about 90% of it. No, I like to hang out with my stepfather. I love my stepfather. My mom too. You know, I like to try and create family time on Saturday, usually Sundays rather. You know, because they've been a big part of my life and have done a lot for me. So I really love them and appreciate them. But I also like to. I have a lot of good friends. You know, I'm very fortunate. I'm blessed that most of my friends, I'm 10 plus years on all of them. You know what I mean? Like most everybody I interact with, like I've fucking seen these people forever. One guy on the other Evil Examine podcast, John the Skeptic, we used to work in a bookstore together. You know, we like to just hang out, shoot the shit. Like you guys know, I have the Evil Examine podcast. I'm into like weird paranormal shit. I'll go stay at the Lizzie Borden house, get possessed for a night. Whatever I have to do, I'm always searching for. Like Roland said, he's an adrenaline junkie. I can't fucking be jumping off of planes, man. But I can go and see, you know, if a woman got murdered in a place and I play the Ouija board naked with my wife, if a fucking spirit appears, we'll find out, you know. I'm not sure. But and I would say on top of that, I do love I'm a big New York Giants fan. I love NFL football. You know, so I'm an avid follower of the Giants when the season's on, and I also love professional wrestling. Although I've been watching more AEW than WWE lately, I really like what they're doing. I think it's professional wrestling is a reflection of society usually, and I just think it's interesting to see the stories that they tell. There's definitely an art to that profession that a lot of people don't really quite understand. Like people think that it's just a ridiculous thing, oiled up men in a ring groping each other, which I love that aspect.
Yeah, that's a good part of it.
But I'll also say that if you've actually watched wrestling since you were a kid and you understand the art of storytelling and how a real match works. Like I can watch, and it's funny because my wife never liked wrestling really until we started. We went to a couple of shows back before COVID, and it's just fun. It's fun. It's ridiculous. You get to fucking yell and be ridiculous, and you can find stories, people telling stories through a fight and through facial expressions. It's an interesting thing, and that's why if you read my book Wedding Day Massacre, there's actually a homage to pro wrestling in that book where there is a death match that ensues in a pro wrestling ring at some point, and then in my upcoming book Nightmare Nirvana, I did pay homage to a character that was conceived in Try the New Candy called Madman Moses. And he's sort of a washed up wrestler that is looking to get the spotlight one final time. And so they do a real death match in the book.
Okay.
Aaron, have you read...
I used to be into... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask Aaron, have you read Pandemonium by Ryan Harding and Lucas Mangum?
I haven't, but I do. I'm a big fan of Ryan Harding. I like, what was the one? Genital Grinder is the one I have on my Kindle. And I like Ryan a lot, and I think he's a cool dude from what I've seen. But I do want to read that book. I think it's dope.
That is,
that's
excellent.
Just ordered it last night, Pandemonium, so I
yeah,
can't wait to read that.
Both of them, Ryan Harding and Lucas Mangum, like they're both on social media and they're both extremely approachable. Especially Ryan Harding, he's always out there, and I've messaged him a few times about the book, and it's just it was a great book. It was just one of those fun, kind of just tongue in cheek, over the top fucking gore and violence, and it was just a great time. But
and it also pays homage to Demons movies, man, and I'm a huge fan of Demons 1 and 2.
Oh yeah,
Dario Argento, Umberto Bravo.
Yeah, it's
get the name off the top of my head, but yeah, man, I grew up watching those, and I'm a huge fan. I've actually paid homage to them in a couple of books too. Slaughterbox kind of loosely touches on it, so I can't wait to read that book.
Aaron, more importantly though, who is your favorite wrestler of all time?
Oh, well, if you read Scary Bastard, which you did, right? Did you see the quote in that?
I don't remember exactly.
Oh, fuck you, Daniel. No, I'm just kidding. You should remember every word of my book. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't remember every word of my books, but in your book.
Fruit to the barber beefcake, right?
No, so the quote was, and I actually updated the Kindle version with a picture. I just found it, and it was awesome. But the quote is from Scott Hall's Hall of Fame speech, and he said, "Good times don't last, but bad guys do." And he was the bad guy, Razor Ramon. I don't know if you remember. It was like Scarface ripoff. Hey, Chico. Hey, man. Hey, fuck you, man. Like...
It's funny because myself and some of my coworkers were talking about that the other day, because I love Stone Cold, and we watch. I don't know if you've ever seen the Stone Cold ET driving at White Castle. It's phenomenal. Go on YouTube and watch it if you haven't seen it. But we're talking about Scott Hall and all his incarnations and all his characters, and he had some of the, what the hell is his one name, like Starship Coyote or something fucking ridiculous.
Diamond Stud. He was the Diamond Stud.
So many awesome names, but I remember him as Razor Ramon from a kid, and he was just the toothpick and his fucking greasy ass hair, and just throw the toothpick at you. Yeah,
the gold chains. Well, my mom's friend, she won tickets to the 1994 Royal Rumble, which, if you don't know, the Royal Rumble is probably the second biggest event that the WWE does every year, and
that's my favorite event.
Oh, it's my favorite too. And how can you not love the 30-man coming in? Everybody does the entrance music. It's fucking awesome. But Scott Hall, these tickets that she won on the radio got us to go backstage. And there's this awesome picture of Razor Ramon fucking choking me out. And I look like such a fucking nerd, dude. It's unbelievable. And I'm holding the belt with my buck teeth and my fucking shading glasses. And he was choking his shit out of me. I loved it. I was like, fucking end it now, dude. It'd be so much easier. But
I gotta say, I love the Chris Benoit episode of Evil Examined. That was fucking sick.
Oh,
It was a good episode though, very in depth.
considered one of the greatest in-ring technicians of all time, Chris Benoit is largely erased from WWE because of murdering his family, of course. And it creates that weird thing, right? Like it's like, if you were a great wrestler or a great football player, but you did something horrible, does it make you less great at what you did? It's sort of that age-old argument, Like O.J. Simpson, amazing running back, first guy to crack 2,000 yards in history. But it's like it's that age-old argument. But yeah, I was blessed to fucking see him, and it changed me. Like meeting your idol, at that young age.
Yeah.
And we didn't have fucking money. This was a fucking weird circumstance where some lady my mom worked with won tickets, and she was just a very kind lady and said, bring your 2 kids and you, and that'll be the 4 tickets, Yeah. And it was a life-altering event, So it was pretty cool.
That was awesome.
I have one more question for you. Of all your books, if you have to pick one for someone to just grab and run with to know Aron Beauregard, the author, and get to know your style, what's the book they should grab?
That's a tough one.
Or if someone right now listening to you that's never read your stuff is getting on Amazon as they're listening to this, or on Godless, wherever, and putting in your book, what should they order to get to know you?
I think the logical answer, my brain says The Slob, just because it's by far the most popular book. But my heart says Yellow. Just because I'm so proud of that book, dude. Like, regardless, even if nobody fucking read that book, that was just that book to me is just something different, and it's something that I wanted to do. I'm such a fucking fan of revenge movies. Like, I'm a huge Charles Bronson guy. I love all the Death Wish movies. And you can see I dedicate the book to Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
There's a quote from Death Wish 2 that begins the book. And just that, I just wanted to do something that was different, Like in that book, it combines extreme horror. It combines elements of noir. And it combines revenge and crime. It's like anybody from those genres that likes that type of shit should like that book,
Yeah.
And it pulls no fucking punches. Let me tell you, I had a guy that is an experienced reviewer. He's done multiple podcasts. I think Sion Das. Am I saying it right, Daniel?
I think it's spelled like that. So I mean, I've never spoken to him, but I'm pretty sure that's how it is.
I think it's Sion Das, but I mean, that
super nice guy too.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. But he was like, dude, this is the most violent form of media that I've ever fucking consumed. And he's like, that means like records, movies, books, but that's not why I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it because of the story arc and particularly like the way it ends, and there's like a certain melancholic feel to it, and I can just see it being a movie. You know what I mean? Like there's some books that you could look at and you could say, man, like there's a scene in the funeral parlor of Yellow where I'm just like, I can fucking, this is a movie, man. Like this is a movie, And I hope before I'm fucking dead, or maybe even after I'm dead, maybe someday it will be. I'm not. I believe it could be. I'll say
Hopefully, we can touch on like that kind of stuff in the future, like because there's a place called Tailflix. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. That
it sounds like a strip club.
Yeah, that's what it
does.
should be. But they say they
Roland,
can.
Roland, where you
Yeah.
been, man? Hanging out at Tailflix.
But they say they can turn your movies and your books into movies. So like is stuff like that legitimate? Like some people say it is, some people say it isn't. So hopefully in one of our future podcasts we could touch on that.
That's a great idea, and I actually have some friends that made a queer horror movie. It's like these 5 dudes from Providence, and they made this film called Death Drop Gorgeous. And I think maybe we can have Brandon, the director, on sometime to talk about that film, because we've discussed a few different times, like, oh, like, they're working on another movie right now, and he's asked, like, is there anything that you think's adaptable? But it's like, they have their own shit going on, and I feel bad fucking trying to push something on it. But I think, like, he would be awesome, because it took them like 3 years to make their first horror movie, but now they're doing the second one, and sort of like making a book, right? That second one's a lot smoother, and and it'd be cool to have somebody that they just got to deal with. Well, actually, I don't know if I should say it yet. I'm not sure if he announced it, so I'm a hold off on that, actually. So, but we'll try to have him on, and I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So the one thing I will say about Yellow is that was definitely, I've read 3 of your books. I read The Slob, Scary Bastard, and Yellow, and Yellow was by far my favorite. I just think often the overlooked part of that is the psychological aspect of it. Like, Oliver is he just gets so fucking downtrodden until he snaps, but not even his violent aggression, but the way, without spoiling anything, I'll say the way he treats his wife later on in the book is just it's sad. Like, you see the way his progression or regression, and you just see where he's going, and you're like, man, this poor fucking guy, and his life is a shit, and the way he treats his wife, and it just goes from there. And it that psychological aspect, I think, is just often overlooked, because people see the violence and the gore and all that, the over the top stuff with that, but they don't see the depth of his character and how psychologically fucked up that guy is until it gets to the finale, which was, excellent. So out of the 3 books I read of yours, which I'm going to get, Wedding Day, obviously, but that's definitely my favorite, and it definitely stands out for that development of his character.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, and I think like you said, the husband and wife dynamic, we can't really give it away, but it's a bizarre dynamic. But did you feel like good about it as it progressed, like later on, Or I'm just curious. Or were you still like, this is just fucked up?
It was, what it was? It was fucked up in the beginning, but as the story progressed, I felt like it was his coping mechanism, and he was kind of like, he needed it. He needed that reason, that reassurance to keep going with his, we'll say, his objective, and to keep progressing through it. And at first, I kind of saw it as fucking weird, the way that they were, but then towards the end, I'm like, it makes sense in a disgusting kind of way, but it was just a weird relationship, but it was definitely well done, and the way it was placed in there was just fit so well. Like, if you took that part out and you showed someone and said, "Hey, take a look at this," they'd be like, "That's disgusting." But when it's woven into the story, the way that you did, it really was really well done. And that's why I said that's my favorite so far.
It's funny because I've had actually a couple of like female readers reach out and said, "Man, I wish there was more of that in the book." You know what I mean? Like their relationship. I mean, it sucks because we're talking about something that people can't understand right now. But maybe if you guys check out Yellow, you can understand what I'm talking about. But I also got a real flattering review. Just somebody reached out to me and said, "Man, this fucking book is like Jim Thompson, who I like Jim Thompson a lot. He wrote like." The Killer Inside, The Alcoholics. Oh man, there's another incredible book that I read. Anyway, he's like a real pulpy sort of violent crime writer, and James Ellroy, I think, was the other. He was like, "Oh, this book reminds me a lot of them," and he was like, "I love how it's like." Just so dreary and like raining all the time and just like dark noir and like he was just hitting on everything that I was trying to do in the book, make this dark environment. So yeah, I would have to say that one just because that one holds a special place in my heart. But.
So Daniel, obviously Yellow provoked some type of emotion with you. It comes across in what you're talking about. That's how I felt about one particular story, even though all of them were good, in Dark Assembly. I think I wrote that in my review about your book. I was so uncomfortable when I was reading it. And it was such I can't recall a book that actually made me feel that uncomfortable. And it was the story, I won't tell what exactly, but it was the story with the kids.
Last Days in Honduras.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was so stressed out.
That one, I mean, I've had reviews on that one where they're like, I can't, like they'll be like great reviews. They'll be like, but I can't believe he had the fucking balls to write this. Like, what a piece of shit, kind of. Like, they're bashing me, but then they're putting me over at the same time. It's just,
Yeah.
it's kind of hilarious.
Amazing. It was an amazing story. And even the illustration, I was fucking freaked out looking at it. I didn't want to look at that page because I was like, I don't like what I'm seeing. It was great. I was so good. You're such an amazing writer. So.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, and the illustration, I'll let the cat out of the bag slightly, but it doesn't give away too much. But the illustration you're referring to is the children in the oven, right?
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why it freaked me out so much. Yeah.
Because there's kids in an oven. That's a pretty good reason.
That is
That's
a
a
good
pretty good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not slightly bothered by that, that's a problem.
It's like,
Awesome.
Oh, man.
Oh man.
well, I guess I feel like we've hit quite a few things. Do you guys have anything else you want to do before we wrap up, or?
Wait, where can we find your stuff? We talked about that, didn't we?
No. We can. We usually do our plugs at the end, so I think you're right about that. Yeah. So if you want to read any of that horrifying shit, Yellow, Dark Assembly, all my stuff is on Amazon. Or if you want a signed copy, I do like really cool, like large fridge magnets and bookmarks. I could do like little packages for people. If you let me know on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, I'm happy to discuss whatever. And then you can check out evilexamined.com for my other podcast, or click the Aron Beauregard Horror tab to see my works. And then I'm also on Godless. And what about you, Roland Bursey Jr.?
I have Facebook. I'm pretty active on there, so you can find me on Facebook or at RolandBurseyJr.com and also on Amazon. What about you, Daniel?
Just like everyone else, Amazon is king there. So I'm on Amazon. I have some of my stuff on godless.com. I'm also on Facebook, Daniel Volpe, and then I have a page of Daniel J Volpe, and on Instagram at DJ Volpe Author. And you can find everything there. Again, just like Aaron said, like if you private message me, I'm pretty quick. I'm pretty receptive. I don't have any books in stock right now, although by the time this comes out, I might. But shoot me a message if you want something signed, and I'll definitely get back to you. How about you, Carver?
Yeah, I'm at carverpike.com. I'm on pretty much all the social media sites as just Carver Pike. I'm very active on Facebook and in my Facebook group, so just check me out there. All my stuff's on Amazon, especially paperbacks. And I'm starting to roll everything out wide, so you'll see me on godless.com, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, iTunes, all that stuff coming up soon.
Well, this has been an incredible episode. Daniel, thank you for sharing the horrors of the night shift. And I'm glad that you guys got to ask me some questions about my career. It was my pleasure to answer those. And listeners, remember to go ahead and subscribe to the Written and Read podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or check out the YouTube channel should you want to see our snozzes. And then lastly, we will say you should, as always, keep it 100% horror.